Button. Good day, folks. Michael J here. It's live with Michael J. It's 10 a.m. New York time. Actually, it's just after, but nonetheless, we are here now. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start off with Lord C. Mountbatten. Lord C. Mountbatten, is that? Or, sorry, C. Lord Mountbatten. So, pursuant to the fair use policy, we're going to compare our experiences with this gentleman's here. He's not a bad guy. I think during the flooding just recently down in Louisiana, he got misplaced for a bit, but he's continued posting. So, the title here, The Ship That Was Nerfed into the Grub. So this will be Sea Lord Mountbatten. We give credit to Sea Lord Mountbatten for this, and we're just using this for comparative purposes, under the fair use policy, of course, without it. So, it'd be interesting to see some of the comments in the video after. So let's just see what happens and let me know what you think.
Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we are talking about a ship that, according
Any
to a good chunk
questions,
of the
just throw it in
community,
chat there,
is still the
folks.
most broken ship in the game, despite going through several quite hard nerfs. And that is the Tier 10 Soviet battleship, the Kremlin. Now, to understand where a good part of this perception comes from, you have to go back to the launch of the Soviet battleship line when the Kremlin was first released. Now, back in the day, the Kremlin was quite the monster and quite overpowered. You can go back to that time period on my YouTube channel and see I agreed with that statement and sentiment as well. Now, what has changed? Well, the Kremlin's gone through several nerfs over the course of its lifespan. Now, a good chunk of this perception also comes from the reluctance, it seems, for wargaming to actually do any meaningful nerfs to the Kremlin. The first set of 4 or 5 nerfs that the Kremlin got was to, of all things, the health of its AA mounts. For whatever reason, the biggest issue that Wargaming saw when Kremlin was released was its AA, which is quite good, actually. Its AA is at a rating of 91, which is quite good, even by Tier 10 standards. But now, after the several nerfs to its AA mount's health, they don't really survive 1 or 2 salvos from even normal battleship AP, let alone British BB AP. It's not uncommon for Conqueror or Thunder to completely strip a Kremlin of a good chunk of its AA in just one single blast. It happens all the time. Now, after that, after some time, quite some time, we did start to get some actual serious nerfs to the Kremlin, starting with its Sigma. The Sigma of the Kremlin started out at 1.9. It was nerfed down to 1.85, and then again down to 1.80. Now, it is only a zero point 0.1 Sigma nerf, but to a battleship that has a 33-second base reload time, that's a pretty big nerf. And that was a big change to how the Kremlin was able to perform. Because with the release of the Kremlin, the release version of the Kremlin that is, it could reliably hit its 9 18-inch guns at ranges well around 18 to 19 kilometers, despite the whole point of the Soviet BB line to be the exact opposite of that. The Soviet BB line was supposed to be a BB line where you're encouraged to push in, be a nice pushing battleship, tank for your team, and deal damage while you're within hopefully about 12 kilometers of the enemy team. That being said, there is a gimmick that the Soviet BBs have where from around 11 kilometers in, their dispersion is much better. than at extended ranges, but the Kremlin didn't really seem to care upon its release. So after that major nerf, they also nerfed the damage that its shells do by about 1,000 to the AP shells, and by not 500, but by 100 to HE shells for whatever reason. So the AP shells went from doing 15,500 to 14,500. The HE shells went from doing 6,600 to 6,500. And
Star-Lord,
since
thank
the
you
5P
very
shell
much
was
for the
also
raid
reduced
there,
from
buddy.
48% to 45%. So, after those changes, there was a couple more tweaks to its dispersion, and now we have the Kremlin of today, which is still a fantastically tanky ship. I haven't even talked about that yet. But if you've played the Kremlin or played against the Kremlin, you know it is a really tough ship to murder, especially from the nose in.
Hello, hello
Which
there,
is par for the
Star-Lord, and
course for
everybody
all
else.
the large
Thank you
Soviet
very
ships,
much for
except for the
dropping
Seabees, of
in.
course.
I'm
Especially
just
from about tier 8 on up, Soviet
patching
ships
a couple
have,
of cables in
speaking
and
of the
out as
heavy
we're watching
cruisers
this
and
video, and then
battleships,
we're going
they
to
have
go
either a
live
half
with a couple
icebreaker
random
bow or a
battles.
complete icebreaker bow that wraps around their bow. That is just a nice middle finger to pretty much every single battleship caliber gun in the game, leaving just a small portion of their nose and below that icebreaker bow where you can pin with AP, and the Kremlin's no exception to that rule here. In addition to that, it does sit fairly low in the waterline once you get past its giant nose, and its armor all around is nice and thick. I'll throw a couple of screenshots of its armor up on screen right here. Now, that means the ship is great for tanking against AP. What about HE? Well, it's good for that too. Its mid deck is just a giant middle finger to HE with its 60 millimeter thickness. So, yeah, that's very nice. Now, its bow and stern deck is still 32, and these are quite large portions of the ship. And if you can't tell, the ship itself is quite large. It has 108,300 hit points, and it gets a 46% torpedo.
And no, don't be confused. What we're doing is looking at the Kremlin, and Sea Lord Mountbatten's just going over an overview of all the nerfs to it. So once we're finished with that, we're going to do some random battles.
Damage reduction, which is great on a ship that's meant to get in close. Most ships that are brawlers have like a 20% torpedo damage reduction. Kremlin's over here with 4.
Hey, listen, thanks, Star-Lord. Listen, rest up. I don't know how you did 24 hours. I can't do that stuff anymore. But anyways, bless you. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
46%, which is great. Now, its main battery guns, it's 9 18-inch guns with the build that I have on them, reload in 29 seconds. It's 33 seconds base. Its turrets are ludicrously fast at a 28.7 second 180 time, which means in a brawl, these turrets can be whipping around as fast as you need it, and then some. And then, of course, too, it's got that Soviet bias AP with all.
Yes, sleep well, brother. Thanks for hopping in, and we'll take care of everybody. No problemo.
All those fantastic values, the nice air drag coefficient. It comes out the barrels at 800 meters a second, so aiming at range is pretty easy, but the dispersion does screw you over nowadays. And like I said too, its A is still quite nice, but it'll be in shambles on your deck in a few rounds of HE. And its concealment is pretty decent for a battleship of this size at 13.4 kilometers. A lot better than the Germans, but not quite as good as some of the British battleships and such. Maneuverability wise, the ship is, well, quite slow because it is quite massive at 31 knots. That's a joke. It's 1 knot slower than the tier 10 battleships with the speed flag equipped. It does, however, have a massive turning circle radius of 1,090 meters and a rotor shift time of 16.3 seconds. So, what's the Kremlin like today with this build, and how's it aged overall? Well, as you can tell by the footage you're watching in the background, hitting stuff from outside of 12 kilometers is a pretty rough task. Now, it can still hit large targets like battleships quite easily, but honestly, anything underneath that size, good luck. Even with the large cruisers, unless they're sailing in a perfectly straight line. As you can tell, there's a remarkable difference from outside of around 12-11 kilometers with the dispersion. So that means Kremlin can no longer reach out at its maximum range and slap around cruisers like it used to back in the day. Now, with the guns Kremlins have, with the 18-inch guns and its Soviet AP shells, absolutely the ability to reach out and slap ships at 18, 19 kilometers for one or two shots with its AP is quite crazy for it to do that to cruisers. And it's a very good thing that that ability was taken away from it. Now, if you were watching the channel back when Deadeye came out, I commented that, hey, look, they unnerfed Kremlin with Deadeye because that buff to its dispersion really gave it that ability to reach out and slap ships at long range yet once again. And that was a crazy time, of course. Now, Kremlin today, it has been nerfed into the dirt because losing that ability is a pretty big mark on the Kremlin, but it's certainly not a bad ship by any stretch of the imagination. It now fulfills the role that it was designed to do, be a tank and be quite deadly underneath 10 kilometers. And it's very much good at that. If anything gets within 10 kilometers of you in Kremlin, your guns will simply tear it a new one, and rightfully so. It's very nice that it encourages players to push because of that. But in today's World of Warships, pushing is very hazardous to your health. Now, the Kremlin is probably the most survivable Tier 10 battleship. It's got that Soviet damage con that cools down very quickly, but you have a limited number of charges of it. And it has one less heal than the other battleships, but its armor makes up for that because, again, it can just hold up its middle finger to whatever's shooting at it for quite some time. It does take a concentrated effort to bring down a Kremlin. I'm sure one of the clips you're watching right now really just shows how tough this ship is and how many mistakes you can make and still get away with it. It's pretty rough to citadel the Kremlin too. You have to be, I would say, probably within 15 kilometers with something like the Yamato or the Shikishima to really have a chance of citadeling it. For most other battleships that aren't, the large gun battleships, probably within about 13 to 14, and you have to have their flat broadside, which a good Kremlin player will never give you, because once they give you that flat broadside, they're dead. Their citadel's huge and sits above the waterline. So, yeah, a good one won't ever give you that opportunity. But just like other large Soviet ships, once it's bow in, that's it. It's stuck in that position. Because it takes so long for this thing to turn, it has such a large turning circle radius, and plus if you turn and show the enemy team your broadside and any of them are close enough, you're a dead little Russian boy at that point. But in the right situation, bow in with some teammates around it or next to an island that will protect it from some cross shots. The Kremlin is an absolute pain in the butt to remove. It is by far the toughest ship at tier 10 when it's in that situation. But getting to that situation where you're holding an island, the enemy ships are pushing you, you're doing, one man against half the enemy team last stand type of deal where the Kremlin really excels, doesn't really happen too much at tier 10 anymore. Unfortunately, it's just like with the German battleships. When they can get within that close range combat and really get going for it, they're great. Same with the Kremlin. But it just doesn't happen that much anymore. And a lot of tier 10 games, like I've said many a times, again, talking about other ships that get close, you're shooting at ships from 17 kilometers plus for the first half of the match. And with the Kremlin only having 9 guns, that's some real pain right there. And plus, you're this huge target, so when you pop off a shot at the beginning of the match at some broadside ship 19 kilometers away, you may land a shell or two. You got a bunch of ships that are eager to shoot you back because of how large of a target you are. Plus, with being such a large target, look at the freaking deck space on this thing. You're quite the easy target for CVs, especially now that your AA is so easy to dismantle by the enemy team. Now, if your AA is intact, it's quite strong, but you don't have any spotter planes or any fighters, too. I forgot to mention that when talking about its consumables. You don't have any consumables besides your heal and your damage con. Now, if you do put Kuznetsov on the ship, this does take the survivability to new levels because you get Kuznetsov's Will to Victory skill where he pops that free heal and that free damage con. So that does buff the survivability of the Kremlin a little bit there. But at the end of the day, is this some insanely broken, overpowered ship? No, it is not. What I like to do is when people say, oh, the Kremlin's still busted, I like to ask them, well, when's the last time you played the Kremlin? Because it certainly is not today. It's great when it gets into its very niche situation of holding an island, staying bound, staying angled to the enemy team, and just holding that point. It's great in that situation.
It's a good battleship. I like it.
And that's what the Kremlin's like today. Is it still worth the grind up to the Kremlin? Yeah, the ship is still, again, very good in those situations. And if you go into competitive, if you're part of a clan or you're planning on doing CODs or anything like that, the Kremlin is a good ship to have, because in those lower player count games where you maybe only have to face off against one or two or three ships, the Kremlin is great at holding its own against a small number of ships, especially in a competitive situation. But in random battles when there's 12 ships and so often you get 10 ships on one flank absolutely steamrolling the team, it's not that great at it. And it's not that great of a kiter either, because it's such a large target, and its superstructure is pretty chunky too when they can get around and get at it too. So guys, that's my thoughts on the Kremlin. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Just want to take a look back at this ship.
Okay, so what do you guys think of the Kremlin? Is it a good ship, or is it not such a good ship? Let us know in chat. What do you think? Anyways, I'm going to go in a battle in the... I got to start the game client. But we're going to go in probably in the Al Nevsky. We're going to go cruiser, because I like cruisers. So we're just waiting for the game client to load up right now. And then we're going to go into battle. Kent Odell, thank you very much for the follow. Listen, thanks for everybody dropping in. Star-Lord, you're absolutely marvelous, buds. Thank you very much for stopping by. Just waiting for the logging in at Warships. Won't be too long. We're going to be in. And then we'll go live. Okay, let's go to the live screen now. Okay, so here we are at the live screen. Let's take the free XP. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go in the Napoli. Napoli's right here. Let's head into battle in the Napoli and see what happens. Any questions, just throw in chat. And remember, Bob's your uncle. Seems like Bob's everybody's uncle. Okay, so we're waiting in the queue. Hopefully not too long, folks. Any questions, just throw in chat. You prefer the German BBs? Well, good point. Pommern, I like the Pommern. GK, her first is pretty good. It'll be interesting to see with the new line, which drops during the next patch. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I like the Republic. I like the Thunder. I like the Conqueror. All great ships. Okay, let's take a look at the map here. Oh, my favorite map. Epicenter. Yikes.
Action stations.
Action stations. Okay, so we're on the port flank here now. So we're going to stick with this side. Yeah, Thunder is great. I don't know why they keep doing it. Everybody complains it's a fire starter, but you know, once you understand each and every ship, you just adapt your play style. Very simple process. Now, flanking is so important, and this is where a lot of guys don't watch that mini map. Flanking is so important in the game. And understanding how important location is. Vermont.
All stations, reporting the position of a strategic target. Enemy destroyer
nice thing about this map, it's got torps as well, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool, folks. Come on, that should have hit. What's going on here? What is going on?
Fire on the designated target.
Oh crap. Come on, let's get around this
Requesting
island.
fire on the designated
A
target.
fairly flat arc on the shells here.
I need your support. Concentrate fire on the designated target.
Come on, baby.
Torpedoes astern.
Come on. Falling short like that. What kind of bullshit's that?
Torpedoes direct front.
Come on. Friggin' something should have hit there. What the frick's going on? What is going on? Fine RNG is just a royal pain sometimes. Friggin' Summers is gonna be a bit of a pain. A lot of
Break
torp.
through to the base.
A lot of torps. If we can help out our ship here, shipmate. Friggin' Thunderer, he's gonna friggin' lose his ship. Gonna
Torpedoes to
lose
port.
his ship.
Fighter airborne.
There we go, what'd I tell you?
Attention. Reporting the target position. Fighter returning to ship.
There's nothing friggin' hitting. Come on. Give me a friggin' break, pals. Finally. Think we can get the Summers, lads, or what? This is where radar comes in really handy. Hydro and radar. Neither worth the ship.
Our victory is in sight.
They're down 4, we're down 3.
Our team has taken the lead. Enemy destroyer sighted.
Now this guy does have a lot of friggin' torque.
Enemy battleship detected.
Come on. Come on, baby. Okay, we got him.
Enemy destroyer blown
That's
up.
what we wanted. We finally got the torp on him. Get our guns around. Come on, gun. Can't lay any torps up because of this yammy.
Enemy destroyer detected.
Okay, we should have gotten the win there. Yeah, Ohio, I think would be a great ship. I've never played that ship. I really like cruisers. That's my ship of choice. Got the victory. Thank you very much. Container added. Thank you. Okay, Monsieur Venezia. Luigi. Okay, what kind of flags can we throw on here? We got everything we need, all the economy flags we want. Okay, going into battle. Tier 10 Italian cruiser, the Venezia. Oui, monsieur. Si, signor. Now, the battleship I'd like to get is the Shikishima. That's what I think I'm going to go for. A friggin' hack on the other side, midway on our side. Bye bye. Gonna do the starboard flank.
Roger. Affirmative.
So we're here in open water on the A flank. There's not much coverage, but it suits my play style just fine. Absolutely. You guys still nailed us.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy cruiser sighted.
Zinapli.
Enemy battleship sighted.
I like the Napoli. That's a great cruiser.
Smoke generator started.
Friggin' hack.
Smoke screen set. Enemy battleship sighted.
Come on. Give me a friggin' break. RNG, you're too much.
Concentrate fire on the designated target.
Come on, baby. Let's go.
Negative. All stations, concentrate fire on the target.
Come on, next hit should take him out. Are you kidding me?
Enemy cruiser detected.
Are you kidding me? Oh, somebody got him. Good job.
Good game, everyone.
Well done, monsieur. Si, senor. Right, right. Friggin' Slava, you gotta watch out for this guy. Friggin' great guns, actually. Okay, we're getting the A cap. Zicle Bear. Well done, boys.
Torpedoes, dead ahead.
And the Kremlin's gonna lose his ship, maybe.
Torpedoes to
There
starboard.
we go. There's a Slava.
Torpedoes to starboard. All stations, requesting fire on the battleship sighted. Problem solved, sir.
Zislava.
Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy aircraft carrier detected.
Oh, that's for the hackers, eh?
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
Okay, we got 2 out of 3 capped.
Enemy cruiser sighted.
Give this Petro some friggin' smoke.
Smoke generator started.
Come on. Give me a friggin' break, man. Almost got, well,
Smoke
almost
screen
got
set.
that nap, right?
All stations, concentrate
That-
fire on the target. Spotter airborne.
Monsieur Slava. Interesting. Very interesting. Wouldn't mind taking this hack up. That would be nice. What do you guys think? Think we can get this hack or what? I guess we can take the slab up. I was finally getting guns coming around.
Spotter returning to ship. Our team has taken the lead.
Come on, baby. Let's go. Come on. There we go. Well done, Gearing. Come on, Hack. Let's go, buddy. Yeah. Well done, lads. Yeah, good game all around. Uh, 20 friggin' seconds, you kidding me? Okay, somebody else got him. Come on, buddy.
Our victory is in sight.
We should take a peek up, I guess. Might as well get the decap, folks. Game's gonna be over soon anyways at this rate.
Smoke generator started. Torpedo tubes destroyed.
We'll take the kill. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, the friggin' Mains is an absolute blast. One of my favorite ships. Mains is a great ship. The only thing missing from that ship is a heel. Okay, folks, we're gonna take a smoke break. So we're gonna take a smoke break. then come back and go at it again. And gonna get to the Al Nevsky or something else soon, so not to worry. Any questions? Throw in chat, and we'll see you shortly, folks. So just taking a smoke break. I put 10 minutes in the chat, but it doesn't take that long to have a smoke. So get some refreshments, use the loo, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, folks, we're going to go on the Al Nevsky next. If you have any recommendations of ships, I'll be open to entertain whatever you put out there. Maybe I have it, maybe I don't. Good question. Live screen. Or you know what? Just I think we'll go on the Carnot. The Carnot, monsieur. Oui, monsieur. Now, who are we going to use for this? Honore. Monsieur Honore. Okay, let's check, see what we can throw on her. Why not? Why not? So flags. Okay. Let's go into battle. Okay, so the Tier 9 French cruiser, the Carnot. Let me know what you think. Not your kind of ship? I don't know. I can't do much for you. We're getting down towards the Russian line soon. We'll get there shortly. Wise guy, eh? Yeah. Okay. Tier 8 CV is not too bad. We can handle that. Now this Ruprecht, it's got, I've run into that once before. It's got torps. And seems to be a competent ship.
Quarters.
What are we doing back in this friggin' map?
Good luck, everyone.
Okay, I better go to the starboard side and shore up there. Missouri's going the other way. Going port side, so I'm going to go starboard flank. A good submarine. Morley. Look, boss, a submarine. Yeah, oh shit. We got defensive AA, engine boost, and obviously a heal. Okay, main gun's 21.5 on here. See if we can get lucky on that Mayhan. We'll see. We will see. Close but no cigar. No torps on this one. Mayhan, eh? See if we can nail this able to fire on them at least. Nice toast.
Provide anti-aircraft fire support. Enemy battleship sighted.
We can nail this rubric. Le fantastique is no longer fantastique. Nice toast. We're gonna get turned around and up the flank.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
Come on. Each side of them, give me a friggin' break. What the frig kind of dispersion's that?
Enemy destroyer sighted.
Come on, I should have hit something.
Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship detected.
He's not too bad on this thing. Okay, we're down 3 ships, they're down 3, so we're pretty even in that department. Zidonskoy. Out of our range. Synapse in our range though. Let's check over on this side.
Enemy
We
cruiser
can get this
sighted.
Lepanto. Lepanto. Come on, baby.
Much obliged. Enemy destroyer detected.
There we go. Well done, lads.
Attention. Reporting the target position.
Come on. Nothing zipping through. Unfriggin' believable. Come on, dude. Come on. Come on. Not gonna be able to nail him. Oh well. Arcs are just too flat for that.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert.
Pretty good.
Enemy battleship
That's
detected.
it? Give me a friggin' break, man.
Engine boost activated.
Monsieur Ponmern. Trying his best. And then A for effort.
The ship is on fire.
Okay, they're only down 4 ships,
Problem
and we've
solved,
only
sir.
got 5 ships left, so not looking good for our team. Not looking good. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Mr. Donsk. Okay. Friggin' submarine now. Holy crap. Come on.
Torpedoes astern.
Friggin' homing friggin' torpedoes. Nothing we can do. Oh, I ran out of juice. Thank you. Well, pilgrims, what are you gonna do? Friggin' more torps coming? Holy crap. I'm on the run, buds.
Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes to starboard. Torpedoes astern.
Whoa, that was close. That was very, very close.
Engine boost deactivated. The enemy is about to win.
Bomber got a good shot on me.
Torpedoes to starboard.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna outrun these friggin' torpedoes.
Torpedoes to starboard.
Please.
Confirmed penetration.
Oopsie, bomber got us. Not much you can do, folks. Not much you can do. You can see in chat, garbage team. Those friggin' guys. Sometimes goes your way, sometimes it don't. What are you gonna do? Garrett blames the friggin' team. What happened to him? He's probably, oh, he's got to be dead. There's only one guy left. Friggin' CV. Like, we got a necro driver. Well, Pilgrims, that didn't go the way we wanted, but what are you going to do? That's life. Okay, how we do overall? Probably about mid-pack or just, well, I actually came third overall. For me, that was a pretty uneventful game. What can you do? Okie dokie. So now, we're going to head down to the Russian line here. Or maybe, I do the Germans? No, let's hit, I want to do the Nevsky. I haven't played this for a bit. I'm going to do the Al Nevsky. The Moskva as well. See what we can throw on this guy. Very interesting. Okay, going to battle. Tier 10 Russian light cruiser, the Al Nevsky. Any questions, throw in chat. Any comments, throw in chat. You know the drill. Chat's your friend. Chat is your friend. Let me just grab my tea. I'll just be a quick 2 seconds. Yeah, a lot of friggin' destroyers. Yeah, in a rock and a hard place here.
Action stations.
Well, I gotta go A. Just to even out that flank. CV's on that side. Maybe I should go C. Yeah, planes are going A. I'm going C then. Irish Eyes has spoken.
Affirmative.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Friggin' detective? What the frick am I detected already? Holy crap. We do have CVs. Yeah, friggin' midway. Nice.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert. Get back! Negative. Retreat now! Anti-aircraft gun crews are on normal alert.
I get over and now I'm not gonna go over. Like a Minotaur there too, eh? And a friggin' Ohio. Oh my. Come on. Are you kidding me? That we were by that rate. Come on, Salem. Where are you, buddy? There are you, Salem. Huh. Or Hayati. Ah, he's toast. Well, we do have radar. Switch over to HE. Okay, let's see what we can freaking get for eyeballs here.
Enemy submarine in sight.
Watch this friggin' Ohio, though.
Concentrate fire on the enemy warship.
Ohio hit us again. We're lit up. We got no friggin' support on this side. We're already down 3 ships. They're down 3 too. Huh. What can you do?
Enemy battleship sighted.
In Ohio again.
All stations, concentrate fire on the target.
Still gets half decent damage no matter what, even if it friggin' grazes you. They're down 4. I can detect. Gotta be the DD or some planes. One or the other. I don't see any planes, but gotta be a DD somewhere.
Provide
Our
anti-aircraft
sub
fire
took out our
support.
sub. They're down 5. We're down 4. So
Requesting
we do have
support.
2 out of the 3 caps.
I need support.
Maple 2014 needs some support. Oh my. What are we going to do? I'm detected again. I have no friggin' idea. It's friggin' 2 DDs and a sub still. Friggin' Ohio on the chase. There he is. Not looking good. Oh, no, could have been worse. Could have been worse.
Enemy destroyer detected.
Come on. The friggin' nothing. There was a perfect friggin' shot, man. Give me a friggin' break.
We've spotted an enemy submarine. All stations, reporting the position of a strategic target.
Well. Not 9.5 minutes left. There's a lot of time left. We're down 6. They're down 6. It's very close that way.
Enemy battleship detected.
I'm detected by something. What am I detecting?
Torpedoes, dead ahead.
Ah,
Torpedoes, dead ahead. We're hull below the waterline. We're flooding quickly. Enemy cruiser sighted. Problem solved, sir.
what happened there? Friggin' depth charges work or what? Okay, we got a sub and a CV left. There's a friggin' CV.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert. Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes to port. The ship is on fire. Torpedoes astern. Torpedoes direct front. Problem solved, sir. Anti-aircraft gun crews are on normal alert.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
Torpedoes direct front. Hull breach. We're taking on water quickly.
Come on, let's get rolling here.
Problem solved, sir.
Come on, our torpedoes are out. Give me a
Ship is on
friggin'
fire.
break.
Enemy aircraft carrier sunk.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert.
Where's that stinking sub? Where is that submarine? Good game, folks.
gun crews are on normal alert.
Well, looks like we're going to have the win. Pretty uneventful game for the most part. It was okay. Friggin' torps. Friggin' submarine torps like a friggin' knuckleball or curveball. Unbelievable. Unfriggin' believable. Okay, we got the cap. Got all 3 caps. So it's just a matter of time when we get the win. That's all.
Our victory is in sight.
Well, we're trying to get that friggin' submarine. Be nice to get that submarine. How do we do? Mid-pack, maybe? Number 3 overall. 29 friggin' planes, no wonder. Okay, guys and gals. Listen, I gotta call it an early day. Got a friend in the hospital with pancreatic cancer, so I've got to get to the hospital. And just understand your health is priceless. Take care of your health. Be safe. And talk to you soon. Take care. Michael J. sends you his love. Take care. Talk soon, folks. Talking soon, folks. Make sure you take care, please. Hey, and listen, thanks a lot for watching. Star-Lord, great for sending all the people here. Greatly appreciate it. Take care, folks, and talk to you soon. So once again, thank you. take care and talk to you soon, folks. Crap, we just got a super container also, so I might as well friggin' show this too before we sign right off. Just clearing out the containers. Super container, what do we get? 25 wyverns? Or wyvern or weavern? Okay, cool. Let's check one more. I take resources, find my best mileage with that. See what we get here. Actually had a few containers here. Holy moly. Okie dokie. One more. I'm just going to get resources, see what happens here. You can always use resources. So that's why we do that. Okie dokie. There we go. Sweet. Okay, take care, folks. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.
Every player of World of Warships has asked the following question at least once. Why do battleship shells sometimes deal either 1,000 damage or 10,000? And why do I receive so few credits after intense and hard battles? Understanding the game mechanics will help you make a greater contribution towards the victory of your team. One of the most important indicators of any player's efficiency is the amount of damage they inflict in battle. So let's begin with the damage-inflicting mechanics and the structures of ships in our game.
We'll take upgraded Japanese battleship Fuso with 57,100 HP as an example. A warship is a small floating city with a highly complex structure. So, how can one model such a complex structure in a game without turning it into an incredibly detailed and boring simulator?
First of all, instead of several dozens of compartments, we divide a ship just into the bow and rear ends, a citadel, superstructure, and casemate. We add different values to each part of the ship. Fuso's bow end has 3,700 HP, rear end 3,400 HP, casemate 8,500 HP, and superstructure 1,500 HP.
Naval engineers tried to group warships' vital compartments, such as the engine room or magazine, at the center of the hull and protect them with as much armor as they possibly could. This part of a ship is called a citadel. We certainly need to reflect its importance in the game. If a ship's citadel is destroyed, she will no longer be able to fight. That's why we decided to allocate all the ship's HP there, 57,100 HP for Fuso.
Now it's time for the most important part. We're going to introduce a special virtual part called the hull. Fuso's hull has 42,800 HP. The sum of all Fuso's parts is 117,000 HP, but the HP indicator shows 57,100 HP only.
This means that you need to inflict 57,100 damage to the ship in order to destroy her. The part of the ship you hit and damage doesn't matter. It only affects how quickly you can destroy the ship.
The layout isn't simple and looks odd at first glance. Let's try to figure out how it works using a specific example. Let's assume that a shell dealing exactly 3,000 damage is fired at our Fuso. The shell will inflict this amount of damage to the citadel only. If the shell hits any other less important parts of the ship, it will deal just 1/6 of its damage. For example, if the shell hits the bow end, the Japanese battleship will lose just 1,000 HP of her total amount.
1/6 of 3,000 is 500 HP. Why does the ship then lose 1,000 HP of her total amount? The thing is that when a shell hits the bow end, it damages this part for 500 HP and deals another 500 damage to the hull. However, a most interesting thing will happen after 8 shells hit Fuso's bow end, which, as we remember, has only 3,700 HP. Because of this, it will be destroyed and cease receiving damage.
After that, every shell that hits the bow end will damage the hull only. So each penetration will cause not 1,000, but just 500 damage. By the way, here's a tip for the game. A destroyed part of a ship becomes black. So you don't need to waste your shells on these parts.
Nevertheless, we can destroy the hull by firing just at the destroyed bow end. As a result, the battleship will lose 46,500 HP. If you continue to fire at the bow end after that, your shells will deal just 10% of their damage to the HP bar directly. It's clear that Fuso's rear end, casemate, superstructure, and citadel are undamaged. Therefore, you can deal more damage to them, 1/6 of the shell's damage.
Now, let's assume that the shell hits the battleship's citadel. It won't deal any damage to the hull, but the citadel will receive 3,000 damage without any reductions applied. The issue of what part of a ship to fire at during battle depends on the specific battle conditions. But regardless of what part of Fuso you hit, you'll still need to deal exactly 57,100 damage to send the ship to the bottom.
Our discussion about how damage is inflicted in World of Warships has only just started. You'll learn everything about penetrations and module damage in our next episode.
If you found this video was helpful, make sure to share it with your friends. Leave comments, don't forget to hit the like button, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time.
Alright, welcome to the aiming video. This is a large topic and there's a lot of complexity to how the aiming system works in this video, and hopefully I can explain it to you guys. There's gonna be a lot of different parts focusing on different things like blind firing, smoke firing, how to aim at ships at long range, how to predict people, what spots of ships to aim at. There's a lot to it, and I think I have some pretty good experience in this game. I have played this game since it essentially released. I've been a part of Supremacy League. I was a part of the last several Kings of the Sea tournaments, winning 4 of them with 07 as one of their main battleship players. I think I know what I'm doing sometimes, but yeah, I think that's why you should at least listen to what I have to say. I might not be completely accurate on everything, but I've got some decent experience, and that's kind of all going into this video. So I hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching. First, we're going to look at a clip from Citizen that really illustrates the biggest problem with aiming in this game. And that's that there's auto aim. There's not actually an accurate reticle that you can choose, dynamic or static, for the center of your screen. It's not going to show you exactly where your shells are being aimed at or where the game engine thinks you're aiming. So here, this is a perfect example. Citizen here, he's aiming up at the rock, as you can see, and that's like 1 kilometer too high on this Republic. And yet, as we see, the shells hit him. He actually lands 4 out of the 6 shells that the Shikishima gets. And he's understandably frustrated because he aimed at the rock. He didn't aim at the Republic. So that's where auto aim comes into it. So we're going to look a little bit closer at this clip, explain it a little bit better, and look what we can change to make things a little bit easier to aim accurately.
Okay, let's just yeet this into Africa, because every time I aim at where I should aim, it always falls low. So if I yeet that high, it'll hit him regardless.
Now this is a really frustrating mechanic, and it's really hard to know what's going on in this game when it doesn't really give you that much information. So we're going to take a closer look at what's going on here, and we're going to take a look exactly where he's aiming, right? He's right up against that island here. And when we take a look at the mini-map, the mini-map's really, really important in this. And we take a look, we see exactly where the mini-map circle thinks he's aiming, right? It's right about at the Republic, despite his central aiming system on his screen showing he's aiming at the island. So you can see where it would be a little confusing if you're aiming at that island, but the game puts your shells at the ship. The important thing to take away from this is the central aiming position on your screen is not accurate. All that matters is that tiny little dot on the minimap. So what's the solution then? Something sensible like turning off auto aim and making it slightly harder on myself according to Wargaming in settings? No, actually, that's not in settings to turn off the auto aim. So you know what we're gonna do instead? We're gonna crank our resolution scale up to 200% so we can actually see where that stupid dot is. Oh my goodness. So the first thing we need to take a look at when aiming is we need to look at what ships are capable of. So a ship like this Wooster, we need to keep in mind things like his speed, like what's his top speed, how fast he can brake or slow down, what his turning radius is, what the rudder shift is to get into that turning radius depending on where he's at in that turn, and of course we'll also look at reversing and their acceleration to stop and go forward and all that stuff. These are all things you just need to keep in mind when shooting at a ship. So we know this Wooster, he can't strafe, right? He can't go, well, up and down, right? That's not possible. But hypothetically, this Wooster's going full speed. How do we aim at him? Well, you can set it right straight along the line, like he's going to go full speed and not do anything. That's unlikely these days, quite honestly. But we can predict generally what he's going to do. It's important to keep in mind those earlier parameters. So if the ship decides to turn out at full speed, well, we need to know his rudder shift and what his turning circle is as well. Both of these things will tell us where to lead in front and above him. The other thing he could do is turn in. So then we also need to keep in mind both those, the turning radius and his rudder shift time, and aim below him, right? The other thing he could do is mess with his throttle. So then what happens if he just slows down? Okay, we need to aim somewhere else. Hypothetically, he's still going full speed. What if he slows down and turns out? A very common one. Then we need to know how fast the ship brakes and how fast the ship turns by the rudder shift and its turning radius. What if he slows down and turns in? Another common one. Generally more skilled players will do the slow down and turn in. Less skilled players won't feel confident to turn towards the ships that are shooting at them. But it's still, possible. And the other thing we need to consider with ships that have a very fast acceleration, ships like Kleber, Marceau, Old Henry was a big one for this, is if you're sitting stationary like this, what happens if they start reversing or start going forward from a stationary position? Well, by the time your shells land, they could be 2 or 3 ship lengths somewhere else compared to where you aimed. Of course, if they're going backwards, how fast do they stop and then go forward again if they decide to do that? All these little things contribute to where you're gonna aim. And the important thing to remember is you're not gonna get it right every time. Aiming is honestly a guess at long ranges. But what you need to think about is all these factors, you need to know them for each ship. And then after shooting the same target multiple times, you start to get a feel for how that player plays and how that player likes to dodge. So after you shoot, do they react right away? Does it take them a few seconds to react? Do they seem to not care? If they react right away, what do? Are they going to do the slow down and turn out? Are they going to just slow down? Are they going to do the turn in? Or have they been going back and forth between turning out, turning in, these different things? And then you're guessing. You're trying to predict what they're doing. So you're not going to aim where the ship will be if they do nothing. You're going to aim where the ship will be after they take evasive action. So you're trying to predict their evasive action. And then at a certain point, they're starting to try and predict what you're going to predict that they'll do. And then it's just this interesting back and forth kind of thing. And then hopefully, if you guessed right, you're going to hit them. But in a battleship, we all know that's down to RNG, right? So while you're aiming at someone, and you're going to be shooting probably the same targets at least a couple times in these games, just because you're probably on a flank with, 3 or 4 other people, and the enemy team has 3 or 4 other people there. So you're probably shooting at the same ships multiple times. So what you want to be looking for is when the people react. So for example, in these clips, they're all the same rune, and we're looking to see if he reacts to when I shoot. And if he does react, when does he react? Does he react the instant I shoot? That might mean he has incoming fire alert on his captain. So then we'd have to take that into account. Here he doesn't react at all, so I know he probably doesn't have incoming fire alert, or he just didn't look at it that time. I am just a little bit high on that one. Although Rune and Hindenburg, you kind of get overpins a lot. So here again, we're testing, okay, if he didn't react to what I'm doing, then he'll probably just continue in a straight line. I saw him slightly turning in there. So I aimed a little bit like he would turn in, but he ended up turning out. He might be a little bit aware of us when we're shooting at him. The only time we would catch him off guard is when he's not looking at me. So stuff like that is good to know. All this predicting stuff does generally result in good hits. Like there, he didn't move at all. He just tanked the shot. And here, I'm thinking, well, he's shooting me, so he's probably going to react a little bit. So he's turning to try and angle his armor a little bit, and, well, we just get a lucky Citadel through his nose somehow, and Death Strike him. And that's not always going to happen, but predicting what someone does is crucial. So there, I predicted he wouldn't take drastic actions after I shot. I figured he'd probably try and tank it based on previous shots. Now this Iowa here, he goes dark, but we don't really get a good hit here. But we can assume that he probably dodged a little bit, or my aim was just off and we didn't know. But here's the real test, because he's going to stay spotted, and we're going to aim kind of for his Citadel, but a little bit high, thinking, oh, maybe he turns out. So if he turns out a little bit, we'll hit his Citadel and probably deal a huge hit. Now here we see the shells go slightly high, so we can gather from that he's probably not paying that much attention to me. So, well, here's a Yamato. I haven't shot at this guy yet, but at closer ranges you can kind of just shoot at weak points. We're going to get into weak spots in a little bit. Just know Yamato's quite weak when broadside. But for now, we're talking a little bit about predicting what people are going to do. And this Iowa, well, he doesn't really care about being broadside to a Montana at close range. And that's scary for him. But predicting your enemy is all about shooting them multiple times and seeing what they're doing and taking note. And then changing how you shoot at them. You know, you start to predict what they're going to do. Right? And Montana is just really nice for these things because it often dev strikes things. 12 guns is awesome. I think that it's really difficult to hit your shots first try, especially on good players. But over time, the more times you shoot at someone, you're going to get better and better and more accurate hits, hopefully. If you pay attention to what the enemy team is doing, the enemy ship is doing, and how they're reacting to you shooting. Here, we're definitely dead. That's Shimakaze, and he's loaded his torps. The only thing we can do here to possibly eke out a win is if we kill this guy. So that our Shimakaze can kind of run and sort of deal with the enemy team. We'll have a decent points lead based on our caps, I believe. And he'll take out to fires, which is pretty nice. So a pretty solid little carry game here. But I wanted to show you because I was shooting at a lot of the same targets this game. And you see how I kind of adjusted my aim depending on the distance away. Farther ranges, I was predicting more. Closer range, you just shoot for weak spots in general. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm just missing straight up at long ranges. How do you even get close if a ship doesn't even maneuver? If he's going in a straight line at 23 kilometers, how am I going to aim that? Well, that's what we're going to get into next. So the most important thing to have when trying to hit someone at long range is the dynamic crosshair. You'll get a feel for static crosshair, but I'm going to explain here why I think dynamic can help you out a lot. This is actually a modded version of dynamic crosshair called Smart Horizon. I'll get into my mods and what I use later, but for now, as you can see, this Donskoy is probably going around full speed. He's likely to turn out, is what I'm predicting. But the important thing here is he's essentially broadside. So here is where dynamic crosshair is really nice. So he's at 8.82 second shell travel time away from me. So all I need to do for a ship going 30 knots is simply put the ship at the 8.82 second mark on this crosshair. A Donskoy goes faster than 30 knots, so we'd have to aim a little bit more. But since I'm predicting he'll turn, he's probably going to slow down a little bit. So if I simply put it on 8.82 or 9, the 9th tick mark, I'll be pretty likely to hit him. And I think that's really powerful, and I think more people should be using this. You can get the feel down on static crosshair, but I think this clip here will show you just how powerful dynamic crosshair can be. And this is from my stream a little while ago, but when I was first using this this mod, but it went pretty well. Oh, he's broadside. Oh, he's asking for it, dude. See this? Put it on 14. 14 seconds. Put it on 14. And we're going to get a great hit in right here. You watch. Look at that. Bam! 32k! Dude, I'm telling you. This is how you play the video game. Now that's obviously quite powerful, that you can just line it up that easily. So that takes care of the horizontal aiming, I think, quite well. And we've learned what ships are capable of, and a little bit about predicting. I'm going to get more into that a little later. But the important thing to know is that Smart Horizon Dynamic Crosshair will really help you line up horizontally if a ship is 90 degrees from you, where, you know, he's not maneuvering. The tricky part, though, is getting the vertical lined up properly, and that is all about the minimap dot that we talked about earlier. And that's the frustrating one, where you get shots that go low or high compared to where you think you were aiming. So by making our minimap bigger, and I've figured out how to do this without just increasing all the UI elements, and I'll show that at the end along with the mods, but the important thing is to look at that minimap dot to figure out if you're vertically aligned. That dot, you just basically intersect that with the line on the minimap coming out of the enemy ship, and you know, assuming they don't maneuver, now you'll have to be predicting and all that stuff like we talked about earlier, but assuming they don't maneuver, you'll be vertically aligned properly. And that's why I have the minimap bigger, is so I can align things vertically like that. Now I do run Navigator, as you can see in all these clips, and that's just an easy way for me to tell if I need to aim higher or lower, and then the final fine-tuning of the vertical aim is all done by looking at the minimap. So aiming horizontally, all done with the main crosshair, but to get that vertical aim dialed in just right to get some of these nasty hits, you have to use the minimap and the dot, because that's the only thing that's accurate. That's the only thing that accounts for all of the auto aim that we saw earlier in Citizen's Clip. So bringing this all together, I tend to try and line things up just right, as if the ship were not going to maneuver. So I line things up in the horizontal, I check my Smart Horizon to make sure that's all good, taking into account ship speed and if it's more or less than 30 knots, and then aiming accordingly on the horizontal axis. Then I look at my navigator and my minimap dot and line things up in the vertical axis, and then I know I'm aligned perfectly for a ship that's not going to maneuver at whatever speed they're going. Then we take into account what the ship has been doing. If we've been shooting at it, we're starting to predict what they're going to do. So if we predict the turnout, then generally you're looking at that minimap dot, making sure you're going to be lined up perfectly when that ship turns out. And the important thing here is when a ship turns or maneuvers, it's going to maneuver drastically on the minimap compared to the minimap dot. The auto aim is constantly trying to correct your aim based on the ship moving in a straight line. So you're going to see some jumping of the minimap dot on the minimap as it tries to compensate for your aim. However, when a ship maneuvers, we don't want that. So your central crosshair oftentimes looks really wonky when you're trying to predict a ship to turn out or turn in, these kind of things, because you have to get outside of that auto aim sphere that's trying to line things up for a ship going in a straight line. So it's important to almost ignore the center of your screen crosshair and actually just look at that dot when ships are maneuvering, because that's all that matters when they're maneuvering if you're trying to hit them. So keep that in mind when aiming at maneuvering ships. You can't trust your central crosshair. Now we should talk about weak points. Now that you've kind of got the whole aiming at a ship down, you need to learn to aim for weak spots. So on this Ranger, we know his citadel is farther towards the back where those smokestacks are. That's the more likely spot to citadel him. You're often going to overpen a Ranger, but maybe not at these ranges. So you're going to want to adjust your horizontal aim to hit these weak spots. So on a Yamato, that's going to be its cheek. And on other ships, they're going to have different weak points. So if you have 406mm shells, for example, and you're shooting at a tier 10 cruiser, a lot of them have 27, 25mm bow armor, but their broadside armor would be 30mm. So they'll bounce you if you hit their broadside armor, assuming it's well angled. So you're going to want to adjust your aim accordingly to try and hit the bow or the stern of the ship where you can overmatch. Now, other weak points, you're just going to have to learn from looking at view models and things like that and learning about overmatch and all these different other things. But as far as aiming, you can adjust to hit some of these weak spots. I mean, at closer range it's easier, but at longer range you can still do it using the Smart Horizon crosshair. It helps a lot with the horizontal, and then of course the mini-map with vertical. But another thing I should talk about as far as weak spots is superstructures. If you know you're going to bounce off of a ship, like the Skurfurst here, you can just shoot the superstructure with AP, at least in a battleship. Of course, cruisers and other destroyers and that will spam with HE, but sometimes you're just loaded with AP and you got to shoot at a ship that's pushing you. So AP into superstructures, especially when they're angled like this, you can actually get some pretty solid full pens if you're aiming for kind of that front corner of the superstructure. Your goal is to have the shell inside the superstructure for as long as possible. And as you can see, we do some pretty solid damage to a battleship that we can't really overmatch his nose because of the 60mm plating. So it's kind of important to know when to shoot at hull vulnerabilities and when to just kind of go for superstructure hits. Alright, let's talk now about blind firing, smoke firing, all that stuff, a little more advanced. I'm sure all of you have seen Flamu's smoke firing video, which is a great video on how to do this, essentially. Just a couple things I wanted to add a little bit here onto that video is how to do it when you don't have a spotter plane available, basically. It gets a lot harder, and a lot of people think, oh, I need a spotter plane if I want to even attempt this, but you actually don't. And that comes down to the minimap again. The minimap is so crucial, so using the little dot on the minimap to line things up properly on a ship is huge, and you're going to see that in the next couple clips. But the key thing to do is to envision where the ship is, right? So you see the shells coming out. Well, you know obviously the citadel is going to be below where the shells are coming from because the guns are obviously on top of the ship and the citadel's down by the waterline. We know this. So I've overlaid a kind of version of the Smolensk here to give you an idea of what I'm trying to aim at. So you want to essentially get used to thinking about how high above the water guns on ships are. So for Minotaur, it's different than Smolensk. It's different than Worcester, like all these different smoke ships. DDs are a lot lower to the water, obviously. You aim slightly differently for them. Now, this is easier when you have the minimap. As you can see, I've lined up the dot pretty much exactly on the Smolensk here, and I'm aiming similar to where I'm envisioning the Smolensk to be, but we're in a Massachusetts, and Massachusetts has interesting dispersion sometimes, especially when you're not locked on. So you're not going to hit every single shot into smoke. That's just unrealistic. But With this, you can hit quite a few times, honestly. It gets somewhat reliable. The tricky part is now when the ship wasn't spotted in their last known position. That helps so much because you can line things up just right. And sometimes you can't. So as you can see right here, this Minotaur is ripple firing from smoke, so it actually makes it easier to see exactly where he is in the smoke, and do that whole imagining the ship from where the guns are, so trying to just picture that in your mind. It gets a lot easier when they're ripple firing just because you get more chances to kind of calibrate it in your mind. But here, the minimap isn't useful, so we're only going based off of the shots. And that's hard. That's not easy. So in general, you kind of want to aim, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but maybe like at least for my screen, I have a 27-inch 1440p monitor, and it's like a centimeter down, something like that, on my screen compared to where they are, at least at this range. It takes a lot of practice, and it's kind of done by feel, but it's still doable. And using all these different tricks and ideas and things, you can somewhat calibrate and get a decent shot in at things in smoke. And I've done this to destroyers and different smaller ships too. It doesn't just have to be a Minotaur with a gigantic citadel. Here though, obviously he gets spotted and we can get a nice shot into him, but the point still stands that you don't have to use all of these things all at once to get a good shot off. It's just using these little tricks in combination as much as you can to find where the ship is in the smoke. So now we're going to talk about blind firing into smokes. So this Smolensk here, he's smoking up. I don't quite swing my turrets around for the first shot, but this is a pretty easy one because obviously he doesn't have time to move. But it's the next shot I really want to talk about. Despite me missing, there's a lot to learn from what I'm doing here. And so we hit him the first time, but more than likely, this Smolensk is going to reverse. We see that last little hit there behind where he slowed down at, so we think he's reversing, right? We know he can't strafe at all, just based on what ships are capable of doing in this game, right? So you see I shoot a little bit behind him, and it's possible I needed to shoot a little farther behind him because he had enough time to possibly accelerate, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to predict where that Smolensk is going to be in that smoke because I know he's low, right? And I want to get him out because, well, getting a Smolensk off the board obviously helps me win a game. And I think that these blind fire shots, maybe not connecting terribly often when you have essentially no information other than a last known position, but people tend to stay in their smokes while they're up. So like how smokes are torpedo magnets because generally there's going to be ship in there, we can kind of shoot into the smoke and hope to hit him. Now, obviously, that didn't happen this time, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't take shots into smokes, even if they're blind, because there are times, I don't have a clip unfortunately, but there are times where I have hit ships and killed ships like this where they haven't been spotted for a long time, just based off the last known location and a smoke screen. So now on to pretty much the most advanced thing you can do in this game, which is shooting when you have essentially zero information. This Duke of York is somewhat spotted right now simply because he's in a cyclone, but we are about to have no information on him. So shooting at things with a last known position marker is not easy. You have to take into account what the ship's capable of, like we talked about earlier, all its speed and maneuverability. And then you're also predicting what he's going to do. So I'm going to predict that this Duke of York is going to continue in a straight line because he probably isn't going to maneuver too much yet since he just got unlit maybe 10 seconds ago. He's probably deciding, should I go back and help support the ships in the north, defend the base, or should I push into my base? And I'm assuming he's going to stay in a straight line. So it's not something you can do all the time, but it's definitely possible to hit shots like this. And as you can see, I don't really have anything else to shoot at. I'm about to turn north through the gap because my team needs help up there, and our base isn't in too much trouble. So I think that hitting shots like this are rare, but doable. So using the minimap is super important. And it's not just important for lining up the vertical aim, it's so that you can do stuff like this and be effective in a cyclone at longer ranges still. So this is a Smolensk at 14 kilometers-ish, and we're gonna go say hello to him. As you can see, he's lit right now, so we know we're getting an updated version of his position. So we just simply need to line up the vertical, which isn't too hard because we've been doing this forever with our minimap now. We just don't have the line coming out of his ship. The hard part is the horizontal, and right now you don't have your main central aiming system to go by, and this just comes down to practice and getting used to how fast ships are and how far you need to lead on a minimap ahead of a ship. And that's not easy, but it comes with practice, and it's certainly a useful skill to have because, well, even a Smolensk can't get away from this all the time. Now, this last clip is insane. This is probably one of the craziest shots I've hit in my entire time playing this game, because essentially I have zero information. Basically, I have some information, but essentially none. First, I'd like you to point out that there is almost a minute left on this game, and, well, we're at 966 points, and there's no way the enemy team catches us. So at this point, just hiding and living, we win the game. So you can have all the aim talent you want. If you make dumb plays like this, you still might throw games. Now, even if I die, I probably don't throw the game, but still, it's like probably the dumbest thing I could possibly do is push into a Summers, because we know the Summers is ahead of us in A, because he's capping, and there's an Ostergotland on my flank. So right now, I'm kind of in a really, really bad spot, because I'm getting torped by the Summers, which, of course, is not a good thing for a low health battleship, but we managed to dodge it. And there he is in the middle of the cap. So we go dark. Now, I know that the only way I'm going to get spotted now is if I shoot, which I'm not going to do because I've realized the crappy situation I'm in, or if I get spotted by the Ostergotland. So that you see me pre-aiming this corner. Now, why am I aiming here? I'm aiming here because I'm very sure this is where the Ostergotland's coming from. And we know from his torpedoes, we know he's there. So this shot is based off of where I think this player is going to be. And this is predicting maybe a minute later from the Ostergotland's last known location. More like 30 seconds probably, actually. And from where his torps came from and all these different things, I'm predicting, since I'm still spotted, that he's going to be right beside this island spotting for the Summers in smokes. The Summers can shoot me if I don't take all his torpedoes, which, spoilers, I do end up taking all his torpedoes and dying. But I'm basing this entirely off of detection, where I can possibly be detected from, and where his torps came from. That is what this shot is based off of. So, it's not easy to do this, and this probably shouldn't have worked, but, well, we actually get him. And it was a dumb play. I was throwing the game here by doing it, but I actually hit this guy with essentially zero information, and that's just the power of being able to predict what your enemy is going to do, using your detection indicator to say, well, he obviously can't be behind these islands or in different areas, so you're narrowing down where the ship can be. And then I'm obviously, again, using the mini-map to see exactly my vertical alignment to hit this ship. So, pretty crazy, and probably one of the craziest shots I've ever hit in this game. So that's it. Bit of a long video. Thanks everybody for sticking around this long and paying attention to me. At this point, I hope I've earned a sub and a like and all that good stuff. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, and hopefully I taught you something. After here, we're just gonna go through my mods and kind of the add-ons to the game that help with all these aiming techniques that I've talked about. They're not super complicated. They're all in Aslan's mod, and the one little thing that we have to do is make the minimap bigger, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. So here we're looking at mods. I actually use Aslan's mod, but I think Mod Station should work. So in here, basically, we just need the minimap mods to make the minimap bigger. It creates a config file within the World of Warships directory, and that allows us to mess with the map scales. I'll show you that in a little bit, but just as a real quick thing here, this is the Smart Horizon thing that I was talking about. You do need to set it to dynamic. That's really important in game, but that allows you to have this dynamically changing crosshair that is calibrated to 30 knots. So I'll talk about that a little later and how I use that specifically, but just know that this is a pretty nice one to have. It helps you aim at long ranges, basically. So I'll just leave that like that. And so the important thing, though, is that we find our minimap mods. So here's the minimap mod that I use. It's called Battle Frame. It's nice. It gives you kind of the ranges of radar on the minimap. That's kind of a nice bonus of it, but the main thing is getting that config file. So once you've got it selected, basically just install it like normal, and then we'll move on to what we do later. Alright, so now that you're in the game directory, after you've installed that mod, you're gonna have, for me it's Aslan's mod pack. We're gonna take a look in the bin here. This is where you find the config file for the minimap. And you basically just click on whatever number is bigger. That's the current one. And then I believe it's in Res Mods. Yes. And then GUI, because that's what we're looking for. And this mod happens to be in Unbound 2. I don't know about the other ones. And there we see Battle Frame is our minimap mod. So there it is, minimap. We go into there. And from there, we get these config files. And what these do is they tell the game what to do with all of this information in the mod. They tell it how to scale it, where to put different icons, all that stuff. So we're gonna go into just the basic minimap one. So once we're in here, as you can see, it's basically just some code. And you don't really need to know what all this stuff does. All that matters is this right here. This is your map scale. So essentially, normally this is going to be in the 2 to 3 range, and it's going to be very tight in its transitions between different scales. So, but you can change this to whatever you want to. And that's where we get the ability to make our map gigantic or incredibly small. I have this as an option just as a fun little stream thing, but the main thing is getting the map big. I think my preference is 4.0. That's where I like to have it, and that's for a 1440p monitor at 100% scaling. And that seemed to be about right for getting the map big, but not so big that it was obnoxious. So secondary battleships are kind of my thing. This is my favorite part about this game, is getting up in people's faces and brawling it out and having these fun, intense close range fights. So I wanted to make a video here on how I position when attempting to brawl. Because as we all know, that the majority of games at tier 10 are pretty stagnant and stale. They involve pretty much spamming high explosive from max range, and I don't think people really know how to push in anymore, because as soon as you push slightly farther ahead than any of your teammates, well, you're the number one focus, especially when you're in a giant ship like a curve first. So positioning wise, I'm gonna say 95% of the time you should always go to the side you spawn at. I say this all the time on my stream, and just in general, it's the best strategic decision to go to the side you spawn at, okay? That you're put there for a reason, okay? And you need to support the cap that you spawned at. So, in this game, as you can see, I'm not going to the side I spawn at. And the reason you don't do that is when there's a CV in the game, okay? I tend to get focused by CVs quite a lot in my secondary battleships, probably because it's a battleship, and especially when it's a Kerr first or an Ohio, you're generally spec'd into secondaries, not fire prevention and basics of survivability. So a CV wants to focus you because they're likely to get more damage off of you. So you want to stick with your team as much as you can, especially in the beginning of the game. People aren't particularly happy with me with doing this in this game, but if I go south, I die. Just straight up. I have 105,000 health, full HP, everything. I will die if I go to the south. Because the CV will see that. A lone battleship all by itself, without any support other than a ZOW and a gearing, but the gearing's pretty far ahead. So that's nothing to a CV. So you have to live, obviously, if you're going to brawl it out in a secondary ship. So that's the one time we're gonna not go to the side we spawn at, okay? So first, let's talk about early game. Generally, you're going to the side you spawned at. So I spawned at C, so I'm coming up to C here. As you can see, I'm pushing quite aggressively here, simply because there's no carrier. And there's only one DD, so I can be quite aggressive here to get into position. Here I make a mistake. We're going to get into that, but generally at the very beginning of the game, you want to push up if you can. We'll get into the things you should look for in a bit, but you're looking for islands next to capture zones. People are going to try and push into capture zones because that's the whole point of the game, is to capture that zone and get the points, and they'll take out. So if you want to brawl people, you need to get close to the objective, essentially. And as you can see, we've done that. We're up close and personal with the enemy. However, I just make a big error in popping out around this corner flat broadside and then continuing to sit broadside in front of these guys. Now, I know it seems like I'm angled. You know, I've got nearly probably a 35-degree angle to this Vladivostok and similar angle to the Georgia at this point. But that's not really enough in a Pommern. The ship does not have good broadside armor at all and has giant superstructure. So I end up dying here simply because I didn't just bow in on that island and hold a corner. But the important part here is that you're trying to use islands to push up, and you're going to see that in a lot of games here, where if I'm pushing at the beginning of the game, I'm using islands to 1, block concealment, and 2, block shots from the enemy. The whole point is to, if you can, push up undetected and surprise people, and if you can't do that, at least block the shots that are going to be coming in from people. So I think it's pretty important to note that most of the time you just can't push up in the very beginning of the game, because as you can see, you're going to get shot at by like half the team. We got 5 people targeting me right now. Like, I think it was up to 6 at one point too. So you can't do that, and this was obviously a mistake. But the next clip I'm going to show you is also a mistake, but I think it illustrates the point of not pushing when you shouldn't. So now I want to show you a mistake example. Here at the beginning I'm playing well, I'm pushing up to an island near the cap. I'm trying to isolate the fight from the enemy team. You know, the people that spawn north of B are possibly coming over to C, and I'm making sure they can't shoot at me, which is good. I'm trying to get close to the cap to support my DD. I'm trying to get close to maybe, you know, brawl some people eventually if the situation arises. But, you know, the Hindenburg's running away. And, I mean, this Bismarck is probably going to turn out and run away as well. So there's not really much for me to do at C. So we're going to look at B. But I want to show you a mistake I'm about to make. It's a big one. There are DDs still alive in this game, and I don't know where the Z46 is. He was last spotted in A, but I mean, they've capped that already, so where is he? Could he be, you know, on the one line farming the battleship? Sure, but he also could be coming back towards B, and I don't know this. So pushing in when you don't really know where the enemy DDs are at is maybe not the best idea. So that's kind of the first thing to look for if you're thinking of, oh, 3 things to look for before pushing would be, where are the enemy DDs and how strong are they with torpedo power, because you don't want to push into DDs with good torps. Is there a CV in the game that's focusing you or on your flank that could very easily focus you? Probably don't want to push into that. And last of all is, are the ships just kiting away from you, like bows pointed away, ready to run? It's not easy to push into ships that are going to just run away from you, because you're always going to be at a disadvantage in those situations, because the more they run, the more they kite you into them, the more you're going to get caught in a crossfire. So here I should have stopped behind the island on my right. It was fine to push into B because my DDs are here, I'm supporting them, I'm providing a bit of AA, all that stuff, but pushing any farther here, sure, I'm getting some damage, I'm getting to, you know, secondary things, but you see the CVs here, that's an issue. The other problem is, well, there's a Brindisi about to show up on the left, and a Monty on my left, and on my right, I have a Monarch, Bismarck, Yamato, and Hindenburg. Hindenburg's about to show himself eventually, spamming high explosive from the back at me. So this is a bad push, and I realize this here now, how much of a mistake I've made. And I would like to note that just a few short minutes ago, or less than a minute ago, I was on nearly 80,000 HP, healing up towards 90, and now we're on 35,000 HP. So mistakes are brutal when you are trying to push in a battleship. If you go too soon, which this was way too soon, big mistake on my part, while sure, we get some damage, you're going to use your damage control, your heal's not going to be up, you won't have hydro, you're just kind of dead. I mean, here I'm just stuck on an island for a long time, so I'm not able to maneuver, but it doesn't really matter because I'm caught in such a massive crossfire that this Hindenburg and Yamato have my broadside, and in front of me I've got a Montana and a Brindisi and the CVs around, and I mean, there you can, we're just dead. So I wanted to show a clip that didn't go well, just to give you an idea that it's hard. It's really hard to do. So early game pushing is hard, but mid to late game is really when this strategy gets really strong. As you can see in this match, we're losing this game quite badly. We're getting pushed into a corner, we've lost C. We're not really getting A because this Bismarck will die to the Shimakaze that's flanking him. So I need to make a play to win this game, right? And, well, Ohio's a great ship for that, especially when you know that their Shimakaze is not going to be anywhere near you, and their Kagero's not going to be anywhere near you. So you don't really have to worry about torpedoes. So you can play the islands, like I have been telling you to get in close with people, and then your whole goal is to outplay them positionally. Because up close, it's not really aiming that you're doing, it's the whole positioning thing. So here I'm pushing up, trying to get shots on this Yamato who's sitting broadside behind an island, but we can actually lob over the island with a lot of these shells. And I think this clip really illustrates what you can do if you know how to position your ship. So it's not the end of the world to be caught in a crossfire. I know that seems weird, but if you angle your ship properly and get right in between that crossfire, you can have a pretty good time, because as you can see, we're about to be stuck between Soyuz, Neptune, Kurfürst, Bismarck, right? Like, we're pushing right into this, and a Shimakaze on our flank too. So I need to run from the Shima. That much is obvious, and we're kind of pushing into B a little bit, but they're not going to do too great there. So I think the biggest thing is to keep an eye on where the biggest threats are for you. So the big threats for me here are, well, the Kerr first on my broadside, but fortunately he's not looking at me. And of course, I was thinking the Neptune might be really close by for torpedoes, but we don't really have to worry about that. That's why I popped the plane, by the way, so I could see potentially over an island, so that maybe I would be safe from that Neptune. And you can see at close range, dispersion's pretty kind. Now here we're turning out because we don't know where the Shima is, and it's very possible he's right there on his way back to come tort me as I come out of this gap. So we're not pushing through there, as well as the Neptune torpedoes. So we're just trying to think about the most likely plays from the enemy ships and position accordingly. So the important thing is, again, using islands. The whole brawling perspective is you have to use islands to isolate shots and isolate ships from their friends and that kind of thing. So you can see we're using the island in the middle of B to isolate the Kerr first, or keep the Kerr first from shooting us while we deal with this Soyuz. Now this could have been a lot trickier because, you know, the Soyuz doesn't have to come across broadside to us and just gift us free damage, but the point still stands that here I'm caught between two enemy battleships, but I'm angled to both of them because of my positioning. Now sure, the CV could have played better and launched torpedo planes and gotten a free strike on me because I'm locked in now to these angles. But that doesn't happen, and we can actually stay relatively safe despite being caught between two enemy battleships. This is a really, really strong position to be in because you have your whole team supporting you, generally, and these guys can't really deal that much damage to you because we're trying to time the Kerr first reload, essentially is what I was doing, because I showed him broadside there, but I knew he had just shot, so I could show broadside to the Kerr first to get all my guns off on the Soyuz. It's positioning like this that is so fun for me. This whole outplaying the enemy kind of thing is just amazing. So with this clip, I want to show you how I go about this brawl. This one is tricky because I am going to the weak side on a game with CVs in it. And normally I would say you shouldn't do this, but I see a Minotaur, which is an incredibly good AA ship, as well as another Ohio. And this Ohio looks like he's charging. And I want to support this because obviously, hey, I'm down for a brawl, let's go, right? And it's a little bit tricky on how to play this because there's gonna be a lot of the enemy team down here. It's gonna be a lot, and we don't see it all yet, but it's 3 versus, well, maybe 4 with the Nevsky in the back versus, I don't know, like 6, 7 maybe at least. So, and the carrier comes down here every once in a while too. So I want to point out that you can go to these sides, but it requires very special circumstances where the islands are really good, like really good for you to brawl with and take those 1v1s. You're trying to isolate, just like I said earlier. It's all about not getting shot at by 6 people. You know, it's 1, maybe 2 people is the maximum. So you see I'm shooting at this Kaba because we can full pen him, and getting a Kaba out early is huge because eventually you're going to have to focus on the battleships or cruisers shooting at you, and you kind of have to ignore a DD like a Kaba. But early on, it's not a huge deal to just ignore battleships that are angled to you. So here we're pushing in. Minotaur's got a great spot to cover us with AA, with Hydro, that kind of stuff, but we're pushing straight into a Smolensk Kerr first Kremlin with an Ohio on our flank and a booster nearby with a Kaba trying to flank us. So how are we going to do this? Well, I have to turn out. we can't. Like, I'm risking a shot here by the Ohio. Sure, he gets a Citadel. That's expected, but it's worth the HP trade to turn out here, because if I stay stuck in here, I'm going to die. And this other Ohio decides to keep going, and that's a mistake, because there's just too much pressure here. So what I'm doing here is, this island is very, very nice for me to get, you know, side shots on this curve first, or to duck behind in the case that Smolensk decides to focus me. Now, it's likely they're just all going to focus on the Ohio, so I need to use this opportunity to get out, essentially. I need to not be in a position where I'm going to get focused down super hard like our Ohio is. As you can see, he's well under half health already, and I'm near half health as well, but I do have a heal coming up in 14 seconds. This is the great part about Ohio, Georgia, Massachusetts. You always have a heal. So my Ohio buddy's going down. We have a DD coming here, which will help a lot, but I'm trying to get out to this flank because, as you can see, the whole enemy team is very focused on the Ohio and the cap. So there's not really much out here other than the Kaaba. So I kind of have a 1v1 with the Kaaba, and at these kind of ranges, if you're a good shot, the Kaaba's gonna get hurt real bad. It's gonna hurt real bad. So it's good for me to take this fight early, because it's likely that a cruiser or something, a battleship potentially, will come around at some point. So I'm kind of angled away. I'm trying to make sure that I don't get spammed by a Smolensk over the islands, because that is possible. As you can see, that's Worcester and Smolensk spamming me, so I really need to leave. We get another full pen on the Kaaba, which is good, but I need to go. And the important thing here is I don't go and hide too far. My goal is to catch them as they're trying to push up to B, because that's their entire goal, right? Like, there's not much here from our team. They're trying to get up towards where the bulk of my team is at C and put them in a crossfire. So my goal is to just slow them down and take opportune shots at broadsides, essentially, is what I'm trying to do. And this little gap here between these two islands is perfect for that, because I'll be angled away from the whole enemy team, and I'll have, you know, probably some decent ships within my secondary range, because Ohio secondaries are really, really good at starting fires. You know, they're really accurate, hit the superstructure, that kind of thing, deal damage. So we're risking a bit of broadside on the Ohio just to get into this position here. And this is going to be really, really, really strong for our team. As you can see, getting onto the flank really helps out this kind of thing a lot. So I really love this part of the game where you're up close and you're just positioning on people. You're just outmaneuvering them. The Worcester is going to die as well. And the important thing to note here is I didn't just full charge in, but I also didn't play at the back of the map, because I could have played where the Nevsky is playing on the map right now, but that's not too fun. So maps like this with lots of islands and opportunities to push in help a ton for me to have fun with this game. I find a lot of the maps these days are designed in such a way that it makes it nearly impossible to push, because you don't have islands like this that can block line of sight and line of fire, right? The reason this works is because these islands are too tall for the the Worcester and the Swans to spam over. You look at an island like Greece, I believe, where all the islands are super short. Sure, they block vision, which is perfect for a HE spam ship, but they're so low that they can just spam over it, and you're never going to spot them. So islands like this that provide actual solid cover, I think, are really good for the game, because they allow for interesting positions like this to be viable. So now I'll push out, but I'm going to try and make sure I'm angled, because now you'll see I slowed down to wait there, but I'm pushing out now because I'm putting these guys in a crossfire, because I have a Nevsky and a Minotaur in the north helping me. So if these guys bow into me, well, Nevsky and Minotaur AP is crushing. Like, it is absolutely brutal to push into. And I mean, of course, Ohio secondaries are no joke either, so that's going to constantly be taking some damage. So either they give broadside to me or my team, which is great. And you see my Minotaur is already taking advantage of this and putting some damage in. So using your teammates to help you and to play off of is really important as well. If you just kind of go in on your own, that's pretty much never gonna work. Sometimes it can, but pretty much never. You'll see I'm trying to keep angled well, you know, kiting away. I'm trying to stay outside the Kerfer secondary range, just because I don't need to take that extra pressure at the moment. So, and then of course I'm just trying to take opportune shots on broadside ships. It's very basic as far as aiming is concerned. You don't really have to worry about that. Something I would like to touch on though, in this game as this wraps up, I've kind of said all I'm going to say about these islands in this match. The reason I'm taking a fighter instead of a spotter plane is because I feel pretty confident in shooting over islands without the spotter plane, as well as I'm trying to brawl in this ship. I'm not trying to sit at max range, so I'm likely not going to get use out of the range upgrade of the spotter plane. The main thing for me is I hate when CVs get multiple drops off on me. There's nothing you can do to stop one drop. They're always going to get it, but I find the fighter plane can help me deal with multiple drops from a single CV. Now this clip is very important. This is how you win or lose games. This is the difference between someone who has a maybe 65% win rate or someone with a 55% win rate. Knowing how to push in and win games is hard. And it won't work all the time, as you've seen in this video. I make mistakes all the time, but knowing how to push in and use islands to be the most effective you possibly can be in the endgame scenarios is critical to raising your win rate. And this goes for all battleships, not even secondary ones. In fact, this goes for all ships, not even just battleships. Cruisers, destroyers, they can all get incredibly aggressive and use their HP as a resource. Battleships just have more HP to use. So this game, I mean, this map is horrible at the beginning. You have to wait for people to die in order to start pushing in this map, because you just can't push in when the whole enemy team is just kind of sitting there waiting for it, when there's just no cover to push in with. So I've been sniping this game. You can see we're at the 10-minute mark in the game, so it's been pretty boring so far, but we're losing, obviously. Sure, we have 2 caps to their 2 caps, but we are kind of just down on HP a little bit, but the main thing is our position is horrible. We have horrible position. We're about to get blocked up here in the D cap, right? We have nothing at C, and they're pushing in from BA area. So we're about to get flanked, and we're about to lose our mid cap as well. So we have to push. It doesn't matter at this point if we lose or not. Like, if I die now, it doesn't matter, because you just have to push at a certain point, otherwise you're going to lose the game regardless. So it doesn't matter if you push in and die needlessly, because the game will end and you'll just have full HP at the back and you won't have tried to even win the game. So here it's tricky, because there's a Montana on my side, there's a Des Moines spamming me from max range, there's a Stalingrad locking me in, bow into him, and a Riga also spamming at me with high explosive. And this Riga, well, you saw he got quite lucky earlier with only 1 overpen. Sometimes that happens, and I've actually got a clip after this one talking a little bit about expectations and that. But for this clip, we have to get in a position to contest the C cap in the middle. It's critical. I can't stay here, obviously, because I'm going to die. So my entire goal is to get to the island where the Des Moines is. I want to be on that island so I can contest the Freddy pushing into C, because that's the important thing. These ships that are like this Des Moines spamming from their spawn or behind their spawn, he doesn't matter. The only thing he's doing now is he's killing me that's useful to his team. But if I'm in a position where he can't shoot me, he's essentially useless and out of the game. So our goal is to not make a ship at the back of the map useful. So that's where, again, islands come into play. Now, I do get lucky here because this Montana goes behind the island and he decides not to shoot at my broadside ship. And we angle kind of just in time to not give too much broadside to the Freddy for his second salvo into us. So we know here that this Stalingrad's going to push forward and put a shot into us. I'm trying to angle a bit to him, but I can't angle fully, otherwise I'm just going to round the island and be in a bad spot. So I'm accepting, I'm guessing around 20, 25,000 damage, maybe even upwards of 30 to give to this guy. I'm accepting that. So there you go. We take 20. 21 or something like that, and now we have to fight this Freddy. But we're in a position that's safe from the Montana in the north, the Stalingrad, and the Des Moines, and the Riga, and the Montana pushing in. So we're in a super strong position here based on the enemy's deployment. Now, sure, the Venezia and I guess not the Venezia. I forgot about that. The Vanguard could have just spammed us with AG, or the CV could have gone after us more. But that doesn't change that this is a strong position for us because it holds on to our cap. We don't just give the Freddy it up for free. Because it's possible that Freddy caps out without us pushing in like this. Now, the important thing to know is how I'm going to use my heals. You see how I'm pretty low? And, well, always be aware of your surroundings because sometimes there's holes in islands. But healing is oftentimes you just use it on cooldown when you're this low. But I don't always do that because the maximum amount you can heal changes depending on what type of damage you've taken. Obviously, if you take Citadel damage, you can only heal like 10% of that. So it's not worth popping a heal as soon as you take a Citadel because you'll only heal like 1,000 damage out of your, well, in this case, 17,000 HP heal. So this next heal, I'm pretty sure I don't actually have the ability to heal too much after this one. So I'm going to save it. Actually, not this one, never mind. But it still doesn't change the fact that you should save heals when they don't give you a full heal if you're down to your last heal. Because once you start taking damage, you can pop that heal, and then some of the damage that you're taking is going to be healed back. That's kind of the point I was trying to get at here. But this is a really nice play to use islands like this because you can have breaks. You can just back up and take a break, right? You see how I've taken a break, my heals come back up a little bit, right? We're at 38 seconds now on the heal cooldown. You know, if I had just stayed out there, I would have probably died to this Montana and Riga who were pushing in on me before my heal comes up. Now, really frustratingly, he gets a huge hit into my superstructure, so angling sometimes just doesn't matter, but using islands to get a reprieve from enemy fire is huge. Being able to take a small break to get your heals off in ships that aren't Ohio, Georgia, Massachusetts, like, they're just so much better at brawling than any other ship just because of the heal. It's crazy how much better that it makes it. You live so much longer than you should just because you can get through all of your healing compared to any other battleship. The 80-second cooldown is so long, and it's fine for sniping battleships, but if you're trying to brawl, it's horrible. So that's why you have to use islands even more in ships like Kurfürst, Fukushima, anything else, anything other than the American secondary line or premium line. Unfortunately, those ones are all premiums, but as you can see, our team is slowly turning this one around, but the important thing here is I think our position baited a lot of the enemy team into trying to deal with us, and it's gotten them killed because they've pushed up close to me and I have some fire support from my sniping team. So I think this position probably won us this game, and to get into this position was incredibly challenging because, as you saw, we took a ton of damage to get into here, but it was ultimately worth it. Now in this clip, I want to talk about expectations. When you're brawling in a battleship, you expect your guns to deal a certain amount of damage to a ship. You have to assume that a broadside ship at close range is going to take a Citadel and play based off of that. That's how I play. I play, if somebody gives me broadside at close range, they're taking a Citadel. They're taking big damage, right? And generally that's true, and generally that's how I make plays. You know, so this Wooster coming out like this, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, he's full health, but if I just stay here, I can put huge damage into this guy, and, you know, he'll be angled, but we can still hit the stepped Citadel, but sometimes Dispersion does that. So the problem with brawling is you make decisions and pushes based on what you think can happen, Now, I didn't think I was going to kill that guy, but I thought I'd at least half his health. It's a cruiser at 6 kilometers. But, I mean, we got the worst dispersion I've ever seen out of an Ohio at that time. So, and now he's flat broadside grounded on an island. So I'm assuming Citadel, right? I don't think that's unreasonable. Maybe not to kill him, but at least put him low. No, actually, that is unreasonable. So it can be very frustrating to play these secondary brawling ships because you end up losing a ton of health because you put yourself in a position like this one in front of a Wooster at 6 kilometers who's going to end up doing around 40,000 damage to you with fires and HE in the time it gets you to do 3 salvos. It's really frustrating for me, and that's why I can't play this game for too long in this kind of playstyle, because stuff like this happens where there's just no reason that he should be alive, but he is. And that's kind of the issue with this game that I have, that there's not enough consistency to make these strategic plays off of. I love the repositioning and outpositioning and outmaneuvering of the enemy, but this game doesn't always reward you for it. And that's the only big problem with secondaries and brawling battleships, really. Now, I'm sure a lot of the time when you've tried to push in, you've ran into a destroyer who just YOLOs at you. And in a secondary battleship, you don't ever want to take the shot right now. Like right here, you don't shoot. You put your secondaries on him and you wait. Patience is key here. You'll see I've switched to HE. I run Expert Loader on these builds for this exact reason. When you're rushed by a DD, you need to clap them out when they turn to get their torps off. So you'll notice I'm going in a nice, straight, predictable line. He's going for his torps right now. We shoot, we slow down, we turn in. Drastically changing our course. And when he turned out, we ensured we hit 9 HE shells. And of course that's going to kill him. And we dodged the torps. So that's how you deal with a DD pushing you. It helps that this guy didn't wait until he got right up close to me so he couldn't miss. But at worst, you're going to trade. And at the end of a game like this, that's okay. But I tend to do this all the time because the secondaries apply a ton of pressure. I actually did around 8,000 damage to that gearing in that short amount of time my secondaries were on him. So that's how you deal with a close range kind of DD fight. Now in this clip, I want to talk a bit about Georgia specifically. This ship is so fast that you can actually get into some pretty crazy positions. And it's not a misplay, even though it would be a misplay in, say, like, I don't know, an Ohio or something like that, or GK especially. Ohio's special too because it gets the fast heal. You'll see a lot of the time that I'll play more aggressively with my American premium secondary battleships, simply because the heal cooldown is so much faster, so I can just heal more damage essentially. So here, without a lot of support, and I mean we're already seeing 2 tier 9 battleships coming here, I'm just charging. I'm just gonna go to this island that's in front of me here, and I'm just kind of gonna post up and try and take 1v1s. So the goal when you're playing a secondary battleship is to use islands to isolate fights. That is the #1 thing you could possibly do when brawling, because obviously 2 ships, no matter how good they are going to beat 1 ship generally, and especially when it's the same class and the same tier, right? A Soyuz Iowa shooting at me is obviously going to beat me shooting at one of them. So we need to keep this Soyuz from shooting us, as well as the Tashkent, because obviously HE spam is going to get me killed very quickly because I'll be forced to use damage control, and then maybe a turret gets knocked out, so my DPM gets lower. All these things are really bad for me. So I'm using this island to isolate, right now, the Tashkent and the Soyuz. And you'll see the other island is isolating the Pommern. So I'm kind of okay with just sitting here at the moment. I'm aware that the Tashkent is turned around and could possibly flank me, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful with that. But for now, we're in a pretty good position, assuming the Iowa doesn't get incredibly lucky on our superstructure, because that is the thing that can happen when you're fighting other battleships. They can just somehow 15k you through your superstructure because they get a bunch of full pets, which is pretty annoying. I don't really like that mechanic at all, actually. It seems, I don't know, it's just not great. But there you see me painting the map because I know that's coming, and we took quite a bit of damage there, but our heals are so fast that we can just stay in the fight for so long. So here, I really need to isolate this Pommern from the Iowa. I don't want to be eating that 15,000 damage through the superstructure every 30 seconds. So we're going to go forward. This also has the added bonus of keeping me slightly more safe from the Tashkent torpedoes that are more than likely coming through here. I've got a Brindisi behind me, so I'm pulling up so that hopefully, as we eat another 12,000 damage to our superstructure from the Iowa, I'm hoping that the Tashkent won't be a problem for me at this point. So the Pommern's almost dead because he pulled out in front of my entire team, and, well, he died for it. So this is how critical it is to isolate fights. So for that Pommern, what he should have done, he should have posted up on that island and just taken that 1v1 fight with me. He should have gone bow in too. Despite him, you know, losing half his DPM then, his secondaries would have just torn me up, especially if he had IFHE with them, because they would all pen 32 millimeters. But he didn't, and he paid for it, because, well, obviously you're going to lose when you're sitting broadside in front of 3 ships. And this is something that takes a lot of practice to not just full send into people. And it's hard because not every map has good islands like this. And sometimes you can't get to these islands. For example, if I was in a Georgia in a tier 10 game, I probably wouldn't have gone to this island. Because tier 10 ships are so much scarier than tier 9 ships. The support ships are just that much better. That there's probably going to be a ship, maybe, you know, north of B that can shoot me because they just have more range and that kind of thing. So you have to look at not only the tier that you're at, but what islands are available to you on each map, because some maps just suck for brawling. And sometimes you just can't until late game. And you'll see that in a bit, but I tend to, on bad maps, just kind of play as kind of a sniper role, just a regular battleship role on certain maps for the first, 10 minutes of the game, because you just can't push in on some maps. You have to wait until the number of people in the game has decreased. As soon as there's less people shooting at you, the better. And then you can open water push. So here I'm pushing because obviously we've pretty much dealt with the Soyuz, and I think that we can get this Tashkent because I'm a fast battleship, right? I can keep up with him. So that's kind of using the island there. From then on, the rest of this game wasn't actually too big a deal. Actually, there was something to note in the rest of this game. Not brawling necessarily, but for those of you that watched my aiming guide, we're going to hit another blind shot, and somebody's not going to be too happy with me about it. This guy's boxed in by the border and the islands in front of them. There's only one place he can go, and that's a full turn to the right. So we just predict where he's going to go and shoot there. And, maybe I'm lucky to hit 2 shells there, but blind fire, okay. As you see, he's not the most happy about it. So I hope this was a helpful guide on how to brawl in a battleship and maybe how to position your ship at closer ranges. Now this can be used for cruisers and that too, but maybe I'll make a more specific guide on cruisers or in the future. But brawling secondary battleships are something I love, and I think positioning them is really hard, but it can be very rewarding, and that's how you get some of these massive crazy games that I've had, like that 400k Ohio game, which is up on my channel, by the way, if you want to watch. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for watching and all the support that you guys have shown